love or be loved in the present. I was still mourning, clinging to the broken heart of girlhood, to broken connections. When that mourning ceased, I was able to love again. I awakened from my trance state and was stunned to find the world I was living in, the world of the present, was no longer a world open to love. And I noticed that all around me, I heard testimony that lovelessness had become the order of the day. I feel our nation's turning away from love as intensely as I felt love's abandonment in my girlhood. Turning away, we risk moving into the wilderness of spirit so intense we may never find our home again. I write of love to bear witness both to the danger in this movement and to call to the return of love. Redeemed and restored, love returns us to the promise of everlasting life. When we love, we can let our hearts speak. Bow, bow. Introduction. Grace, touched by love. It is possible to speak with our heart directly. Most ancient cultures know this. We can actually converse with our hearts as if we were a good friend. In modern life, we have become so busy with our daily affairs and thoughts that we have lost this essential art of taking time to converse with our heart. That's a quote from Jack Kornfield. Corn spelled with a K. This is important to note. Okay, we're reading All About Love, New Visions, a book by Bell Hooks. We're on chapter 1. There's a sparkly crab over my shoulder. On my kitchen wall hang 4 snapshots of graffiti art I first saw on construction walls as I walked to my teaching job at Yale University years ago. The declaration, quote, "The search for love continues even in the face of great odds," end quote, was painted in bright colors. At the time, recently separated from a partner of almost 15 years, I was often overwhelmed by grief so profound it seemed as though an immense sea of pain was washing my heart and soul away. Overcome by sensations of being pulled underwater, drowning, I was constantly searching for anchors to keep me afloat. Isn't that interesting? Anchors to keep them afloat. To pull me back safely to the shore. I guess the anchors, if the anchors were on shore, that would probably pull you towards shore. Maybe. I don't know. Anchors afloat. I'm not following. But let's keep going. Whenever I pass this construction site, the affirmation of love's possibilities sprawling across the block gave me hope. Signed with the first name of local artist, these works spoke to my heart. Reading them, I felt certain the artist was undergoing a crisis in his life, either already confronting loss or facing the possibility of loss. In my head, I engaged in imaginary conversations about the meaning of love with him. I told him how his playful graffiti art anchored me and helped restore my faith in love. I talked about the way this declaration, with its promise of a love awaiting to be found, a love I could still hope for, lifted me out of the abyss I had fallen into. Damn, isn't that cool when art unexpectedly just carries you across some wretched moment you're going through in life, and it's even more cool when you get to actually meet that artist and be like, yo, that song I played on repeat got me through. Anyway, she's talking about graffiti artists. I totally got lost because of ADHD. Yeah. Okay, there we go. She's having a imaginary conversation in which she told him how his playful graffiti art anchored her and helped restore her faith in love. Then, I talked about the way this declaration, with its promise of a love waiting to be found, a love I could still hope for, lifted me out of the abyss I had fallen into. Where did I read that part? My grief was a heavy, despairing sadness caused by parting for a companion of many years, but, more important, it was a despair rooted in the fear that love did not exist. Damn. Could not be found. And even if it were lurking somewhere, I might never know it in my lifetime. Has anyone else been there? I have totally been there before. It had become hard for me to continue to believe in love's promise when everywhere I turned, the enchantment of power or the terror of fear overshadowed the will to love. One day, on my way to work, looking forward to the day's meditation on love that the sight of graffiti art engendered, I was stunned to find that the construction company had painted over the picture with a white paint so glaringly bright it was possible to see faint traces of the original art underneath. Hilarious, because why do they only ever like paint over like the one spot where the graffiti is, and like they don't just paint the whole thing or do any type of color matching? It's so funny, the simple ways in which we waste time to cover art. Where are we? There. Upset that what had now become a ritual affirmation of love's grace was no longer there to welcome me. I told everyone of my disappointments. Finally, someone passed on the rumor that the graffiti art had been whitewashed because the words were a reference to individuals living with HIV, and that the artist might be gay. Perhaps it is just as likely that the men who splashed paint on the wall were threatened by the public confessing of a longing for love, a longing so intense it could not only be spoken, but was deliberately searched for. After much searching, I located the artist, and talked with him face to face about the meaning of love. Wow, she did the thing! We spoke about the way public art can be a vehicle for the sharing of love-affirming thoughts. Yes, and we both expressed our grief and annoyance for the construction company had so callously covered up a powerful message about love that was really just positioned in a free space where there was otherwise ugliness and bullshit from construction. Can I curse on here? I don't even know. Where are we? She found the artist. She talked to him. To remind me of the construction walls, he gave me a snapshot of the graffiti art. Nice. From the time we met, everywhere I had lived, I have placed these snapshots above my kitchen sink. What a good place to put art, y'all. If you don't have art above your kitchen sink or your stove, which are areas of your home that you're hopefully spending a lot of time, it is such a powerful place to put art in the kitchen. Highly recommend it. Every day when I drink water or take a dish from the cupboard, this is what I just said, I stand before the reminder that we yearn for love, that we seek it, even when we lack hope, that it really can be found. There are not many public discussions of love in our culture right now. At best, popular culture is the one domain in which our longing for love is talked about. Movies, music, magazines, and books are the place where we turn to hear our yearnings for love expressed. Yet the talk is not the life-affirming discourse of the 60s and 70s, which urged us to believe, quote, all you need is love. Nowadays, the most popular message are those that declare the meaningless of the meaningless of love. The meaninglessness. It doesn't say ness. Meaningless of love. Its irreverence. A glaring example of this culture shift was the tremendous popularity of Tina Turner's song, with the title boldly declaring, quote, "What's love got to do with it?" End quote. I was saddened and appalled when I interviewed a well-known female rapper, at least 20 years my junior, who, when asked about love, responded with a biting sarcasm, quote, "Love? What's that? I have never had any love in my life." End quote. Ugh, that sucks. Youth culture today is cynical about love, and that cynicism has come from their pervasive feeling that love cannot be found. Expressing this concern in "When All You've Ever Wanted Isn't Enough," Harold Kushner writes, I am afraid that we may be raising a generation of young people who will grow up afraid of love, afraid to give themselves completely to another person because they will have seen how much it hurts to take a risk of loving and have it not work out. I am afraid that they will grow up looking for intimacy without risk, for pleasure without significant emotional investment. They will be so fearful of the pain of disappointment that they will forego the possibilities of love and joy. End quote. Young people are cynical about love. Ultimately, cynicism is the great mask of the disappointed and betrayed heart. When I travel around the nation giving lectures about ending racism and sexism, audiences, especially young listeners, become agitated when I speak about the place of love in any movement for social justice. Indeed, all the great movements for social justice in our society have strongly emphasized a love ethic. Yet, young listeners remain reluctant to embrace the idea of love as a transformative force. To them, love is for the naive, the weak, the hopelessly romantic. Their attitude is mirrored in the grown-ups they turn to for explanations. As spokesperson for a disillusioned generation, Elizabeth Wurtzel, who's that? Asserts in the book Bitch, what's it called when there's the two dots? Colon, in praise of difficult women, colon, quote, none of us are getting better at loving, colon, we are getting more scared of it. Wait, I feel like I'm reading this weird. Y'all, I got a little bit of that ADHD, and so I'm just going to try again, if there's anyone even here hanging out. Hi. Okay, let's start over. As spokesperson for the disillusioned generation, Elizabeth Wurtzel asserts in this book, because it's in the sideways font, bitch, colon, in praise of difficult women, colon, quote, none of us are getting better at loving, colon, we are getting more scared of it. We are not given good skills to begin with, and the choices we make have tended only to reinforce our sense that it is hopeless and useless, end quote. Her words echo all that I hear in older generations say about love. When I talked of love with my generation, I found it made everyone nervous or scared, especially when I spoke about not feeling loved enough. On several occasions, as I talked about love with friends, I was told I should consider seeking a therapist. I understood that a few friends were simply weary of me bringing up I understood that a few friends were simply wary of my bringing up the topic of love, and felt that if I saw a therapist, It would give them a break. Oh, anybody ever been there? But most folks were just frightened of what might be revealed in an exploration of the meaning of love in our lives. Yet whenever a single woman over 40 brings up the topic of love again and again, the assumption rooted in sexist thinking is that she is, quote, desperate for a man. No one thinks she is simply passionately, intellectually interested in the subject matter. No one thinks she is rigorously engaged in a philosophical undertaking wherein she is endeavoring to understand the metaphysical meaning of love in everyday life. No, she's just seen as on the road to, quote, fatal attraction, end quote. Disappointment and the pervasive feeling of brokenheartedness led me to begin thinking more deeply about the meaning of love in our culture. My longing to find love did not make me lose my sense of reason or perspective. It gave me the incentive to think more, to talk about love, and to study popular and more serious writing on the subject. As I pored over nonfiction books on the subject of love, I was surprised to find that the vast majority of the, quote, revered books, one used as reference works, and even those popular as self-help books, have been written by men. Boo. All my life I have thought of love as primarily a topic women contemplate with great intensity and vigor than anybody else on the planet. I still hold this belief, even though visionary female thinking on the subject has yet to be taken as seriously as the thoughts and writings of men. Men theorize about love, but women are more often, love's practitioners. Most men feel that they receive love and therefore know what it feels like to be loved. Women often feel we are in a constant state of yearning, wanting love, but not receiving it. Anybody else feel that way? In philosopher Jacob Needleman's Primer, a little book about love, virtually all the major narratives of love he comments on are written by men. His list of significant references doesn't include books written by women. Throughout my graduate school training for a doctorate in literature, I can recall only one woman poet being extolled. That's such a unique word. Extolled. Extolled as a high priestess of love. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. She was, however, considered a minor poet. Yet even the most non-literary student among us knew the opening line of her most well-known sonnet. How do I, quote, let's start over, quote, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways, end quote. This was in pre-feminist days. In the wake of the contemporary feminist movement, the Greek poet Sappho has now become enshrined as another love goddess. Back then, in every creative writing course, the poets dedicated to the love poem were always male. Indeed, the partner I left after many years first courted me with a love poem. We had always been emotionally unavailable and not at all interested in love as either a topic for discussion or a daily life practice. But he was absolutely confident that he had something meaningful to say on the subject. Interesting. I, on the other hand, thought all my grown-up attempts to write love poems were mushy and pathetic. Words failed me, and I tried to write about love. My thoughts seemed sentimental, silly, and superficial. When writing poetry in my girlhood, I had felt the same confidence I would come to see in my adult life, only in male writers. We're still in the introduction, y'all. We reading the introduction. Oh my gosh, this introduction's so long. But I'm here to win the introduction. When I first began to write poetry in girlhood, I thought love was the only topic. Girl, same. Bell hooks. I felt the same way. I didn't know what was going on. We getting the cow. We getting the cow. Okay. Getting the cow. The most important passion. Yeah. Indeed, the first poem I published at age 12, go Bell Hooks, was called, quote, A Look at Love. Somewhere along, end quote. Somewhere along the way, in that passage from girlhood to womanhood, I learned females really had nothing serious to teach the world about love. She didn't learn that to be like a true thing, but she learned that because of how society, deals with putting people up or down. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all, I've been up since 5:45, so we're doing our best. We're reading a book. Death became my chosen topic. Okay, so she went from love to death, which makes sense. They go hand in hand in many ways, or rather, they are interconnected in their exploration of like grief and reality and being human. Moving on. No one around me, professors and students alike, doubted a woman's ability to be serious when it came to thinking and writing about death. All the poems in my first book were on the topic of death and dying. Even so, the poem that opened the book, quote, The Woman's Mourning Song, end quote, was about the loss of a loved one and the refusal to let death destroy memory. Contemplating death has always been a subject that leads me back to love. Significantly, I began to think more about the meaning of love as I witnessed the deaths of many friends, comrades, and acquaintances, many of them dying young and unexpectedly. When I was approaching the age of 40 and facing the type of cancer scares that have become so commonplace in women's lives, they're practically routine, my first thought, as I waited for a test result, was that I was not ready to die because I had not yet found the love my heart had been seeking. Y'all, I'm about to cry on TikTok Live. Oh, it sounds terrible. Being like, oh my God, do I have cancer? Oh my God, can anyone ever love me the way I want to be loved? Fuck. Can I curse on here? Shortly after the crisis ended, I had a grave illness that was life-threatening. Damn it. Confronting the possibility of dying, I became obsessed with the meaning of love in my life and in contemporary culture. My work as a cultural critic offered me a constant opportunity to pay close attention to everything the mass media, particularly movies and magazines, tell us about love. Mostly, they tell us that everyone wants love, but that we remain totally confused about the practice of love in everyday life. In popular culture, love is always the stuff of fantasy. Maybe this is why men have done most of the theorizing about love. Fantasy has primarily been their domain, both in the sphere of cultural production and in everyday life. Male fantasy is seen as something that can create reality, whereas female fantasy is regarded as pure escape. Let's read that one again for the two people in the front. It says, male fantasy is seen as something that can create reality, whereas female fantasy is regarded as pure escape. Boo! Alright, someone left. Whatever. To my one person hanging out. Hence, the romance novel remains the only domain in which women speak of love with any degree of authority. However, when men appropriate the romance genre, their work is far more rewarded than the writing of women. A book like The Bridges of Madison County. Have y'all ever seen that movie? It's adorable. It'll make you cry. And also, there's covered bridges in it, and they're kind of cute. And if you look at them, you'll probably want to go find a covered bridge. A book like The Bridges of Madison County is the supreme example. Had a woman penned that sentimental, shallow story of love, which did, though, have its moments. See, Bell Hooks even agrees. Covered bridges. It's unlikely it would ever have become such a major mainstream success, crossing all boundaries of genre. Of course, consumers of books about love are primarily female, yet male sexism alone does not explain the lack of more books by and about love written by women. Apparently, women are both willing and eager to hear what men have to say about love. Yeah, usually, female sexist thinking may lead a woman to feel she already knows what another woman would say. Such a reader may feel that she has more to gain by reading what men have to say. Earlier in my life, I read books about love and never thought about the gender of the writer. Eager to understand what we mean when we speak of love, I did not really consider the extent to which gender shaped a writer's perspective. It was only when I began to think seriously about the subject of love, to write about it, that I pondered whether women do this differently from men. Reviewing the literature on love, I noticed how few writers, male or female, talk about the impact of patriarchy, the way in which male domination of women and children stands in the way of love. John Bradshaw's Creating Love, The Next Great Stage of Growth, is one of my favorite books on the topic. He valiantly attempts to establish the link between male domination, parentheses, the institutionalization of patriarchy, end parentheses, and the lack of love of families. Famous for work that calls attention to the, quote, inner child, end quote, Bradshaw believes that ending patriarchy is one step in the direction of love. However, his work on love has never received ongoing attention and celebration. It did not get the notice given work by men who write about love while affirming sexist defined gender roles. Okay, if you're listening and you want to know what book we're talking about here, it's a book by a guy named John, John, Bradshaw, Bradshaw, and it's called Creating Love, The Next Great Stage of Growth. Somebody drop it in the chat in case you need a jester cat. Hi, Dusty Joy. Hey, Green Square. We're reading a book. It's called All About Love. It's by Bell Hooks. We're reading the introduction. It's really long. I'm getting tired, but I like it. Okay. Profound changes in the way we think and act must take place if we are to create a loving culture. Men writing about love always testify that they have received love. They speak from this position. It gives what they say authority. Women, more often than not, speak from the position of lack, of not having received the love we long for. Wah, wah. A woman who talks of love is still suspect. Perhaps this is because all that enlightened women may have to say about love will stand as a direct threat and challenge to the visions men have offered us. I enjoy what male writers have to say about love. I cherish my Rumi and my Rilke, Rilke. Never heard of this person. If anyone knows, hit me up. Male poets who stir hearts with their words. Men often write about love through fantasy, through what they imagine is possible, rather than what they concretely know. We know now that Rilke did not write as he lived, that so many words of love offered us by great men fail us when we come face to face with reality. Burn. And even though John Gray's, Gray, work troubles me, I don't know, who's John Gray? You didn't mention him before. What's happening? Troubles me and makes me mad. I confess to reading and rereading this book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I never read that, but I definitely saw that like at all my aunties' houses in the 90s. But like many women and men, I want to know, about the meaning of love beyond the realm of fantasy, beyond what we imagine can happen. I want to know love's truths as we live them. Almost all the recent popular self-help writing by men on love, from the works like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, to John Welwood's, Welwoods, Love and Awakening, never heard of it until now, make use of feminist perspectives on gender roles. Does anyone know what that sentence said? Because I didn't get it. Ultimately, though, the authors remain wedded to belief systems which suggest that there are basic inherent differences between women and men. In actuality, all the concrete proof indicates that while the perspectives of men and women often differ, these differences are learned characteristics, not innate or, quote, natural, quote, traits. If the notion that men and women are absolute opposites inhabiting totally different emotional universes were true, men would never have become the supreme authorities on love. Given gender stereotypes that assign to women the role of feelings and being emotional, and to men the role of reason and non-emotion, quote, real men would shy away from any talk of love. Yet, what she's saying is that men tend to be the authority on the writings of love. So, yeah. Though considered and established, quote, authorities on the subject, only a few men talk freely, telling the world what they think about love. In everyday life, males and females alike are relatively silent about love. Our silence shields us from uncertainty. We want to know love. We are simply afraid the desire to know too much about love will lead us closer and closer to the abyss of lovelessness. While ours is a nation wherein the vast majority of citizens are followers of religious faiths that proclaim that transformative power of love, many people feel that they do not have a clue how to love. And practically, everyone suffers a crisis of faith when it comes to realizing biblical theories about the art of loving in everyday life. It is far easier to talk about loss than it is to talk about love. It is easier to articulate the pain of love's absence than to describe its presence and meaning in our lives. Taught to believe that the mind, not the heart, is the seat of learning, many of us believe that to speak of love with an emotional intensity means that we will be perceived as weak or irrational. It is, and it is especially hard to speak of love when what we have to say calls attention to the fact that lovelessness is more common than love, that many of us are not sure what we mean when we talk of love or how to express it. Everyone wants to know more about love. We want to know what it means to love, what we can do in our everyday lives to love and be loved. We want to know how to seduce those among us who remain wedded to lovelessness and open the door to their hearts to let love enter. The strength of our desire does not change the power of our cultural uncertainty. Everywhere we learn that love is important, and yet we are bombarded by its failure. In the realms of the political, among the religious, in our families, and in our romantic lives, we see little indication that love informs decisions, strengths, or strengthens our understanding and community, or keeps us together. This bleak picture in no way alters the nature of our longing. We still hope that love will prevail. We still believe in love's promise. Just as the graffiti proclaimed, our love lies in the reality that so many of us continue to believe in love's power. We believe it is important to know love. We believe it is important to search for love's truths. In an overwhelming number of private conversations and public dialogues, I have given and heard testimony about the mounting lovelessness in our culture and the fear it strikes in everyone's heart. This despair about love is coupled with a callous cynicism that frowns upon any suggestion that love is as important as work, as crucial to our survival as a nation as the drive to succeed. Awesomely, our nation, like no other in the world, is a culture driven by the quest to love. It's the theme of our movies, music, and literature, even as it offers so little opportunity for us to understand love's meaning or to know how to realize love in word and deed. Our nation is equally driven by sexual obsessions. Oh, am I going to get banned for saying that? There's no aspect of sexuality that is not studied, talked about, or demonstrated. Ain't that the truth? How-to classes exist for every dimension of sexuality, even that one where they teach you how to do it yourself. I ain't gonna say it because I'm pretty sure I'll get banned if I say that. Yet schools for love do not exist. You're so right. Everyone assumes that we will know how to love instinctively. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, we still accept that the family is the primary school for love. Those of us who do not learn how to love among family are expected to experience love in romantic relationships. Oh my gosh. Is this hitting home for anyone else? However, this love often eludes us, and we spend a lifetime undoing the damage caused by cruelty, neglect, and all manner of lovelessness experienced in our families of origin and in relationships where we simply did not know what to do. Only love can heal the wounds of the past. However, the intensity of our woundedness often leads to a closing of the heart, making it impossible for us to give or receive the love that is given to us. To open our hearts more fully to love's power and grace, we must dare to acknowledge how little we know of love in both theory and practice. We must face the confusion and disappointment that much of what we were taught about the nature of love makes no sense when applied to daily life. Contemplating the practice of love in everyday life, thinking about how we love and what is needed for ours to become a culture where love's sacred presence can be felt everywhere. I wrote this meditation. Ooh, we're going to get to a really good part. Okay. Oh my God. Unless she means the meditation is the book. In which case, it's going to take a lot longer. Okay, let's read this last paragraph of the introduction. As the title of this book, All About Love, New Visions, indicates, we want to live in a culture where love can flourish. We yearn to end the lovelessness that is so pervasive in our society. This book tells us how to return to love. Offering a hopeful, joyous vision of love's transformative powers. It lets us know that we must do what we must do to love again. Gathering love's wisdom, it lets us know that we must do what we must do to be touched by love's grace. Yay! Okay, cool. Okay, so All About Love, New Visions by Bell Hooks. It sounds like this is basically a how-to love book, and that's very exciting. And Bell Hooks, this is a New York Times bestseller. I've never read anything else by Bell Hooks, but Joy talks about Bell Hooks all the time. And I'm really excited to get more into this. Also by Bell Hooks, Communion, The Female Search for a Love. Salvation, Black People and Love. Oh, about the author. Okay, in case you're curious about the author, Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks is a cultural critic, feminist theorist, and writer, celebrated as one of our nation's leading public intellectuals by The Atlantic Monthly, as well as one of UTNE readers. Utney? Utney? I don't know how to say that. Readers, 100 Visionaries Who Could Change Your Life, end quote. She is a charismatic speaker who divides her time among teaching, writing, and lecturing around the world. Previously a professor in the English department at Yale University and Oberlin College, Bell Hooks is the author of more than 17 books, including All About Love, New Visions, Remembered Rapture, The Writer at Work, Wounds of Passion, A Writing Life, Bone Black, Memories of Girlhood, Killing Rage, Ending Racism, Art of the Mind, Visual Politics, and Breaking Bread in Insurgent Black Intellectual Life. Cool. She lives in New York City. I don't know. I wish I could see when this book was written, because sometimes the publishing is different than when it's written. I don't know if I will find that fast. I don't see it, but very cool. I'm assuming Bell Hooks is still amongst us. Copyright 2001. Okay, yeah. Hardcover edition published in 2000. Very cool. So cool. All About Love. So, whew. That was a good practice in reading. And I think I feel a little bit tired at this point. So I might sign off, go walk the dog. Thanks for hanging out. Did it rain all day? It did here. Yes, it did rain a lot today. Not all day, but it did rain a lot, and thankfully it's done now. So gonna take the dogs out. Emily, yes, I have talked to her. She is okay. She is back in Savannah tonight at 9, if you're thinking of the Emily I'm thinking of. And, yes, she is okay. All the Emilys that I know are okay. But yeah. Anyhow, Much love. All about love. And I hope you have a great night and talk to you later. Ciao.